Good afternoon. It is June 7th, 3 p.m. We are now beginning the San Marino Unified School District Board of Education special meeting. Here is your board president, Shelley Ryan.
Thank you, Dr. Choi. All meetings of the Board of Education are open to members of the public unless publicly noticed as a confidential closed session as allowed by the law, Education Code 35147. Members of the public may address the board as outlined in the public comment section of the agenda. The audio of all meetings is recorded. A member of the public may be held liable for any slanderous or otherwise defamatory statements. In consideration of the board, members of the audience, please turn off or silence your cell phones while in the boardroom. The San Marino Unified School District encourages those with disabilities to participate fully in the public meeting process. If you need a disability-related modification or accommodation, including auxiliary aids or services to participate in the public meeting, contact the assistant to the superintendent at jdelatore@smusd.us or at 626-299-7000 extension 1310, at least 48 hours before the scheduled board meeting so that we may make every reasonable effort to accommodate you. Under Government Code, Section 54953.2, and then with Americans with Disability Act of 1990, Section 20242 USC 12132. The documents provided to a majority of the Board of Education regarding an open session item on this agenda is made available for public inspection in the district office located at 1665 West Drive, San Marino during normal business hours. In addition, such writings and documents may be viewed on the district's website at www.smusd.us. Today, in open session, I'd like to call to order the information item. Please stand with me as we take the Pledge of Allegiance. Let's begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Approval of the agenda. This is an action item. May I have an approval for the agenda for today?
I move to approve for today's agenda.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Chang and Mrs. Chong. Like to do roll call. Mr. Chang?
Aye.
Mrs. Chong?
Aye.
Mrs. Ryan? Aye. All right, next we have public comment section. This is for information. The Board of Education has adopted board policy 9323B. This is to ensure the public's right to be heard in any matters pertaining to the San Marino Unified School District. Persons who wish to provide public comment will have three options to submit public comments: submit through an online form, request to speak during the meeting through question and answer, phone dial-in, and request to speak during the meeting in person through the public comment card. Submit it through an online form. The public may submit public comments for the open session today from 9 through 1:30. Comments received during this time will not be read during the meeting, but will be provided to the Board of Education. At this time, I want to report that there were no comments submitted. Request to speak during the meeting via question and answer and phone dial-in. During public comment, the meeting will pause for 1 minute to take requests to speak. Raise your hand function is used to take requests during the public comment period. For online attendees, press the raise hand icon to add yourself to the queue. For phone attendees, dial *9. The speaking order will be determined based on the order of requests received. Individual speakers will be unmuted and called to speak. Request to speak during the meeting in person via the public comment card. Please complete the public comment card and submit the completed card to the designated drop box with the assistant to the superintendent no later than when the agenda section items on the agenda is called by the board president. There will be opportunities for public comment. They're offered at the start of the open session for matters on the agenda. The Board of Education reserves the right to add a public comment period prior to any individual item on the agenda. 5 minutes may be allotted to each speaker, a maximum of 20 minutes to each subject matter. However, in the event there are more than 4 speakers on the same subject matter, the board president retains the discretion to adjust, limit the time allocated to each speaker to ensure that all wishing to speak will be heard within the 20-minute allotment. This is section 5A, communication from the audience regarding matters on the agenda are to be made at this time. Dr. Choi?
Thank you, President Ryan. We are pausing for 1 minute to take requests regarding matters on the agenda. If you would like to make a request to speak, please press the raise hand icon, dial *9 if you are joining by phone, or if you are here in person, you may submit a public comment card. We have 20 seconds remaining. If you would like to make a request to speak regarding matters on the agenda, please press the raise hand icon or dial *9. President Ryan, we have no requests.
Thank you, Dr. Choi. At this time, we're on item 6, appointment of subcommittee of the board to screen applications of potential board members. This is a discussion item pursuant to board policy 9223. Appointment of a subcommittee of the board will be selected to screen applications of potential board member candidates. This is a discussion and then later an action item. Are there any- Okay.
I would like to make a motion since board president is every day too busy. So let your fellow Jen Chong and Joseph Chen to take
Okay.
care, serve as a subcommittee. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chang, for that offer. Mrs. Strong, would you like to accept?
Yes, I would. Do I need to second it as well?
Yeah, you need to second it and then we'll do a roll
So
call.
I second Mr. Chang's suggestion and accept the nomination for the subcommittee.
All right, so the subcommittee as recommended by Mr. Chang is for Mr. Chang and Mrs. Chong to be on the subcommittee to screen applications of potential board members. I would like to do roll call. Mr. Chang,
Aye.
Mrs. Chong,
Aye.
Mrs. Ryan, aye. Prior to your subcommittee work, which will include not only the required information and check off of the eligibility of the candidates, I also kind of want to remind both of us and myself on the board that it is the integrity of this office that we need to uphold. So in an opinion with respect to the school board members' residency, the California Attorney General prefaced their decision by stating that both the public and the district have an interest in the integrity of public office and in the qualification of their officials. So I'm charging you with the duty of the integrity of your work, and I want to encourage you to uphold that. Are there any questions at this time?
Well, since this the open section, I think we should have some audience listen in the room. So I like the board president refresh what is the role and the function for the subcommittee, because I think some audience may think today we are start to review the qualification. So
Mm-mm.
actually it's not. So
No.
do you like to rephrase what is the subcommittee function? Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
so the subcommittee function is not to review qualifications, but the eligibility to be a candidate. So first and foremost, they have to be 18 years and older. They have to be a registered voter. Hang on a minute, let me go to my list. They have to be a resident of California, a resident of the San Marino Unified School District. They cannot be an employee. They, as I repeated earlier, must be a registered voter, and they should not be disqualified to hold a civil office. And you have sheets in your packet to define that for you. So beyond looking at a map of where they reside, you also need to make sure that each of those boxes are verified or checked. Do you need, Mr. Chang or Mrs. Strong, do you need a reminder of the appointment or appointed board members must be resident and to this district, or the definition of domicile, any of that? Because we just went over it fairly recently.
No, I'm fine.
Can you talk about the last one, not disqualified to hold a civil office? What do you mean?
Do you want
Yeah,
to take that one?
Absolutely.
I
Thank
can.
you. Thank you, President Ryan. You are disqualified to hold a civil office if you have been convicted of a felony. So if you have a criminal history, you may need to look into that further. But I don't believe any of our current applicants would fall into that category.
Have we had a chance to confirm with the registrar's office voter registration? Okay.
Yes, all
Yes,
of
we
that has
have.
been
Mhm.
verified.
So
Mhm.
all of these candidates in front of us have all been verified to be registered voters of San
Yes,
Marino.
That is correct.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah. I don't have more question. Yeah.
all right. So we've already formed our subcommittee. If there is no further discussion, do we?
Are we able to review questions at this time? Just so we can get ahead of that as part of the process. It was included in the packet that you have today.
So,
And I did include the questions that board members submitted to me, but I'm not sure, President Ryan, you'll have to make that call.
yes, so another thing that I would like to discuss with you is that we as a board can determine the amount of time for each candidate for their interview, whether it be 1 question, 3 question. We can determine the minutes that they're allowed to answer the question. And then, of course, I would recommend that because of the number of applicants, that we not go over 10 minutes, because then we will get late into the night. And I think people should be selective of what they say, and that it shouldn't be a marathon.
Is that something that we should determine tomorrow during our discussion item, but consider today for now?
Well, I'd like to have a discussion of the recommended process because it allows also the candidates some time to process. You know, there's a big difference if you're allowed to speak for 2 minutes versus 5 minutes. There's a process in place if they understand that we're going to be asking 1 question versus 4 questions each. And then who will go first? How will we select the numbers? Are we drawing it from a hat? Or do we, look at the number of letters in the alphabet and determine any of that? I mean, we need to kind of have the process in place so that we can anticipate the agenda for Thursday. And it is preferred that all candidates be present in person. If there are any issues or challenges, please notify the school district. Okay. So at this time, you are given the questions in your packet. And is it recommended that we pick 1, 2, or 3? Because I was going for 1.
Yeah, okay. So there are different ways that you can approach this process. In consultation with the district's legal counsel, who has extensive experience in these proceedings, they suggested that the board consider a candidate forum process, wherein it would be very similar in structure to how the City Club has hosted candidate forums in the past. We would determine who is asked a question first by drawing numbers out of a hat, so that it is random and completely objective and fair. We would have a timekeeper to determine the maximum time for each question that is asked. Each candidate should be given the same amount of time to provide their responses to each question. And then after the first round of questions is asked of all applicants, and you go to the second question, then that person can either be determined by drawing numbers out of a hat or going right to left. And then you would do the opposite the next time around. So we just need to have a fair and objective process so that everybody feels comfortable with the integrity of the process.
Okay. So does the subcommittee feel comfortable if you draw the numbers and then we record it, even though we have not assigned an applicant to a number? So we draw the numbers and we have an order, and then of course there'll be an opportunity to assign the name to the number.
One of the things that was on Dr. Wilson's presentation was that we would name the applicants this evening.
Yes.
And so President Ryan, at some point in the meeting, you should name the applicants.
So that's after they come back to me, right? And then I
Well, we're
name
just
them.
naming the people who applied, and then tomorrow we will be naming those that are eligible.
Okay.
Yeah, to be interviewed.
Perfect. So before I go to that, I just really want to get clarification. We have a number of questions, and primarily they're from the California School Board Association. These are the questions. And then there were some additional ones that were kind of submitted.
Yes.
And so at this time, it is up to the 3 board members to choose their first choice, second choice, and maybe a third choice, and then go from there. Is that correct?
Yes, that would be amazing if you could handle that tonight. It would make things much easier, and then that way we could get out to the public the process so that everybody has sufficient time to prepare and knows exactly what to expect when they come in on Thursday.
Maybe we should start with setting a time and a number of questions. I'm a little hesitant to commit to the questions tonight because this is the first time I've looked at them. And also because it was not something we said we would necessarily be deciding on tonight. But I think if we can come up with a timing process, then we could settle on questions tomorrow and give a chance to sort of review all of this, because I wasn't necessarily prepared to choose the questions tonight. I think it would be a good idea to settle on timing. And I know that that's something we discussed when we met previously. We had no idea how many applicants we'd have. So if we had 1 or 2, then we could spend more time on questions versus at this point we have more than 2. And so we don't necessarily want to commit 5 hours to the interview process.
So perhaps it would be helpful, President Ryan, if you named the applicants to give the board an estimate of how many eligible candidates there could be.
Okay.
And then we can talk about time if you're comfortable with that.
Yes, that'd be okay with the
Yeah.
Yes,
board?
thank you.
All right. So we have applicant. I'm just reading the name, correct? All right. Mr. Nathaniel Desai. Miss Lynn Erickson. Miss Lisa Chung Wang. Miss Chen Yan Chen. Miss Louis Cassie. Miss Nam Jack. Miss Susan Flanagan.
So I believe that is 7 applicants.
That is correct. So at this time, Mrs. Chang, you've raised the question in terms of time. Do you have any proposals?
Trying to work my way backward into this. It's like a Common Core math problem. So we have 7 candidates and I guess what's our target time that we want to keep the meeting to?
So in talking with council today, they talked about 10 minutes per candidate, which would make the meeting, the interview section of the meeting, an hour and 10 minutes. So we could back into that.
That's their opening statements, or those are the questions?
Those are the questions.
Questions, interview
When
questions.
when we send out the actual eligible candidates tomorrow, will we be including the section that we indicated would be shared as their sort of personal candidate statement?
That is entirely up to the board to decide.
Mrs. Chung, could you repeat that question?
Well, we had discussed in the questionnaire that one of their questions would be shared as sort of a candidate statement.
I don't recall that we would publish something from their application.
I did not, I must confess, I never actually looked at the application because I'm already here. So I'm not sure if it indicated that. I think we discussed it. Was that not included in the actual?
Their statement is their opening statement, and they could choose to present anything they want. I was not aware that we were going to publish anything from their application.
Okay, that was my misunderstanding. Then I thought we were, that's fine. Then we should allot time for them to make a candidate statement themselves then.
Mhm.
Okay.
And of course, they can use their application, but everybody had a different depth and breadth to their application. So it wouldn't be fair if we just pick number 3, or whatever the question is, and then just say, we're going to publish that, because that may not necessarily be their statement.
Right. No, that's true.
We did have one question with the description that said, your response will be used as your candidate statement to be shared with the public.
So that was written, was it the last one?
It
You
was the
remember
last question. The question was, in the remaining 1+ years of the vacant board member term, what personal or professional qualities, skills, or strengths will you bring to the board that will add value to the governance team, students, and schools in San Marino?
So Dr. Choi, you feel that the candidates were aware that that was going to be published and that is their statement?
Well, it says your response will be used as your candidate statement to be shared with the public.
So they are not going to be making a 5-minute statement then, if we're publishing that?
Well, the comment doesn't say what we'll do other than it can be shared with the public. So,
Okay.
Is it possible to share that when we publish the names tomorrow of those who are eligible?
Yes, if that is the consensus of the board. Yeah, we can do that.
It doesn't preclude that we don't have to include a time for them to make a statement during Thursday as well, right?
The process is at the discretion of the board.
I think that if we're asking for public comments, it would be helpful if people knew where the candidates stood on a very basic level. If we hope to receive any sort of comments over the next couple of days prior to the interviews.
So interview is coming Thursday, right?
Yes.
So actually, tomorrow night, there's no agenda for,
There is an item on the agenda tomorrow evening to discuss the process, and I think we plan to restate the names of those to be interviewed during the open session meeting tomorrow evening. And we can, go over at that time, if we're not prepared to do it this evening, the specific questions, et cetera.
Okay. Do you want to make the motion to publish not only the names, but the response from that question?
I move to publish the statements that were indicated on their application when they are confirmed for eligibility in the notice tomorrow sent to the public.
So the item that Dr. Choi referred to me says, I understand that this application in its entirety is a public document and may be made available to the public upon request. And then it has the government public records and the code. And, but what I understood, Dr. Choi, that you understood was that it is only in the remaining 1 year of the vacant board member term. That question is the one to be published.
It doesn't say to be published, it says to be shared with the public.
Okay, so we would have it available in the boardroom and post it? I mean, we may not be publishing it in a newspaper, but would we be, where are we publishing the names and the items in their application?
Well, I believe it was our process to at least publish the names of the applicants that met eligibility. In terms of publishing the statement, it doesn't say anything about publishing the statement. It just says that the statement can be used to be shared with the public. So there's no obligation to publish it.
Mrs. Chang, it was, I understand you to mean that you wanted at least part or some part of their application shared with the community so that they would be able to call in or to participate or to get to know the candidates a little better. Is that what I'm hearing from you?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Chang, do you have any?
The only concern I have when we send out the notice and the protocol to the community solicited for the application, do we mention that we want share this information to the public? Because I don't know if the candidate they may think if we do, maybe they want to publicize maybe 100-page. But right now they only do the.
No, she's talking about just what's in the application
last
right now,
question.
just the last question.
In the remaining.
So, yeah,
Oh,
the question reads, in the remaining 1+ year of the vacant board member term, what personal or professional qualities, skills, or strengths will you bring to the board that will add value to the governance team, students, and schools in San Marino? And all candidates have indicated they have read and checked the box and they agree that it could be shared. So that's the only one Mrs. Chong is talking about.
You
That's the
said the
only question.
last question?
The very last question.
That starts in the remaining 1+ years.
Mhm.
So the last one here. So it would be on this one. The question got, it got separated from the answer. For that question there, and then it matches the answer in the first paragraph on the next page. So just that question, not the entire application itself. Because we were clear in the application that that would be shared. That's not something that we didn't say wouldn't be, right? Okay, I never, yeah, I couldn't fill it out. I didn't want to accidentally submit an application to the board.
But do you think some of candidates may think if we only publish this question, they may think the other question, maybe they put more, then we'll have a disadvantage or what?
No, I think that last question is a very pertinent question because the term is only for a year and a few months. And it is important to know what their plans are or what their thoughts are in terms of what they bring to the board.
So what would
So
be-
you want to make a motion for that and then we'll go ahead.
Right, so I will repeat the motion to publish the last question.
Oh, it isn't. Okay.
Which reads specifically.
Okay, we don't, because it wasn't agendized of what we're actually calling for right now, we can't vote on it.
Okay,
Yeah. This is something that we've discussed and we can move forward in it and then we will agendize it tomorrow's meeting and then we can do that. Is
Okay.
that okay with you?
yes, that's fine.
Okay, thank you so
Add it
much.
to the agenda tomorrow.
It's under that umbrella agenda.
Yeah, it's a broad description. President Ryan, what you could do as a board is give staff direction on what you want to do without formally voting on it, if you have consensus from the board.
Okay.
Do I need to withdraw the motion?
You didn't make the
Okay.
motion, yeah. So do I have consensus from the board to give direction to our cabinet? Yes, okay. So be prepared that we are going to prepare to share the question that I so read previously to be shared with the public, with the names of the applicants.
Got it. Thank you.
We will do a formal action and tomorrow, okay?
Okay.
So again, for January 7th today, what we've accomplished is to understand your charge in the subcommittee, what you recommend, and we've given direction to cabinet and what we're going to vote on tomorrow, once we agendize it. You've got the applicants in front of you. And then I am prepared, before I leave today, to make my 3 choices and then submit it. If you can, as soon as possible, if you want to take till tomorrow to submit your 3, then that would be okay as well. Is that okay? Because I think then we will be prepared so that if you see a duplicate, I pick the same question as Mrs. Chung, then it gives her an opportunity to pick another question or me an opportunity to pick another question. So we're not all picking the same question. And then we can see the time because the length of each of the questions may require 3 minutes versus 4 minutes or 2 minutes versus, does that seem like a good plan? Okay.
Will we be having them do any additional candidate statements then, or are we just going to stick with questions during that 10-minute per candidate?
You've already published their statements,
Okay.
so
But not
if they
necessarily-
want to read it out or something, I'm sure that's possible, but we already will be making it public, right?
So how many questions would the staff like for me to send 3 to the staff of which questions I would like to
Yeah,
consider?
so
for?
here it just has your name and you can just rank them first choice, second choice. It's right there
Okay.
for you, right?
So
So,
the board tomorrow evening will need to consider how much time you want to give each candidate to respond. If you give each candidate a minute and a half to respond to each question, then you could theoretically ask 2 questions of each candidate. If you want to give the candidates 3.3 minutes each, then really you're limited to 1 question each to ask each of the interviewees.
Okay.
Okay.
At this time, are there any questions from the board?
No.
No?
No.
Okay. And so I would like to. So the appointment of the subcommittee is Mr. Chang and Mrs. Chong. This is under Board Policy 9223. And this was an action item, right? I already voted on that. All right. So we are going to be adjourned. All right.